According to insiders deeply entrenched in ESPN's explosive broadcast yesterday, what commenced as a standard quarterback dialogue swiftly erupted into live televised decimation. The casualty, Dillon Gabriel; the catalyst, Sanders. This wasn't a debate. It wasn't even a disagreement. It was a televised psychological demolition aired in real time before a stunned national audience. For those tracking Cleveland's quarterback saga since the inception of training camp, this first take segment wasn't just compelling, it was seismic. If you caught it live, you witnessed a generational television moment. If you didn't, a subscription has never felt more mandatory. The pre-show setup appeared routine. ESPN producers had arranged a joint segment with both Browns quarterbacks, a seemingly innocent discussion about camp competition, standard off-season fluff. The expectation, polished PR responses, sportsmanship on display, professional restraint cloaked in media training. But that's not what unfolded. Sources from within the production crew described the atmosphere as calm, even casual. Gabriel arrived early, reviewed talking points with his rep, minimal entourage, focused demeanor. There was no visible friction, just two professionals prepping for prime time. But what happened next shattered every presumption. According to multiple ESPN staffers on site, Shedeur entered not with ego nor antagonism, but with lethal composure. He wasn't cocky, he was calculated, backed by meticulous preparation. While Gabriel mentally rehearsed team-centric cliches and safe commentary about chemistry and growth, Sanders arrived armed with receipts. Every stat, every metric, every training camp touchdown burned into memory. He didn't come for an interview, he came for a crowning. Let's break down the opening salvo. Host Molly Karam initiated the conversation cordially, asking both players about their training camp progression. Gabriel responded as expected, emphasizing camaraderie, offensive rhythm, rapport building. It was polished, safe, predictable. Then it was Sanders' turn. Sources say he paused and intentionally locked eyes with the lens and delivered his line with surgical precision. I've been flawless in 3 practices, 0 incompletions, over 20 touchdowns. The numbers speak louder than narratives. The entire energy of the studio shifted. Stephen A. Smith straightened in his chair, sensing impending volatility. Shannon Sharp leaned forward, locked in. Producers described the tension as tangible. Gabriel tried to recover, brushing it off with the classic quarterback deflection. Practice stats don't matter without game day execution. Safe territory, non-confrontational. But what came next detonated the entire segment. Sanders, calm as ever, flashed the faintest grin and delivered the kill shot. If practice doesn't matter, then why are you still QB2? 7 seconds of silence followed. A lifetime in broadcast television. Gabriel froze, eyes flicked toward the moderators. No answer came. Stephen A. dropped his notes. One word escaped. Wow. That wasn't just a clap back. That was a paradigm shift. A full-blown breach of football's unwritten code where teammates smile publicly and compete silently. But Shedeur torched the rule book with a single sentence. No more facades, no more illusions, just brutal truth. Hierarchy established. Then came the chaos. Sources claim the segment cut to commercial early, then giving the set time to breathe. Gabriel reportedly yanked off his mic and walked off without a word. Sanders stayed seated, calm, checking his phone like it was any other Thursday. Backstage, ESPN executives scrambled into a closed-door emergency meeting, debating whether to air the segment in full. Ultimately, they did. Whether that was journalistic integrity or a strategic play for ratings, one thing is certain: the internet was not ready. But here's what separates Sanders from the average trash talker: preparation. Sources say he showed up with a full analytic breakdown, completion percentages by down and distance, red zone touchdown to incompletion ratios, side-by-side efficiency comparisons on identical plays. This wasn't swagger. This was data-backed dominance. He didn't just win the argument, he redefined the quarterback conversation. This wasn't some spontaneous outburst. It was a premeditated explosion. While Gabriel prepped for a routine media segment, Sanders was orchestrating a public tribunal armed with cold statistical ammunition and a mind sharpened for televised battle. Before the segment even concluded, social media erupted. The hashtag was trending globally within minutes. Former players chimed in with instant analysis. Active players posted cryptic admiration-laced tweets. And just like that, the conversation shifted, no longer about quarterback competition, but about psychological dominance, media mastery, and the evolution of competitive mentality in the modern athlete. Every major sports outlet pivoted. Every debate show changed gears. The quarterback battle in Cleveland had just been redefined by one electric moment, and don't underestimate Shannon Sharpe's reaction. His silence spoke volumes. The Hall of Fame tight end, normally animated, confrontational, and loud, sat speechless for nearly 10 seconds before summoning the weighty line now etched into NFL lore. That young man just ended the quarterback competition, on national television. That's not disrespect. That's dominance. Coming from a legend who made a living on psychological warfare, that statement landed like a verdict. Gabriel's defenders scrambled. They tried spinning the moment as unprofessional, divisive, or damaging to team chemistry, but those arguments collapsed under the weight of the public's reaction. The audience didn't see drama. They saw a truth teller armed with data, confidence, and conviction. And the most revealing twist, the Cleveland Browns' response. Complete silence. No public statement, no attempt to clarify, no damage control effort. Sources within the building described chaos behind closed doors. The coaching staff furious that internal dynamics had just gone global. The front office nervous about the locker room fallout. Ownership reportedly ecstatic over the viral wave engulfing the franchise. Head coach Kevin Stefanski allegedly called an emergency team meeting, scrambling to prevent permanent fractures. But the psychological fallout had already begun. Because Sanders' verbal nuke didn't just humiliate Gabriel, it rewired the stakes. Every future rep at practice is now laced with subtext. Every coaching decision now viewed through a lens of favoritism or fallout. Gabriel isn't just fighting for a spot anymore. He's battling to restore his own identity. And after training camp struggles, his confidence already teetering now demands a full-scale rebuild. Meanwhile, Sanders has entrenched himself as the alpha, unapologetically confrontational, ruthlessly prepared, and fearless enough to declare superiority in front of millions. Veterans across the league took notice. An anonymous starting QB admitted, "That's the new era. We were taught to play nice. These young dudes don't care about perception. They care about position." A retired Super Bowl champ added, "Gabriel's done. Not because of talent, but because he lost the mental war in public." You don't recover from that. One current offensive coordinator told reporters that was strategic brilliance. Sanders just forced the staff's hand. You can't start Gabriel now. And the league noticed. PR departments across the NFL immediately reassessed media training. Teams reevaluated joint interviews, social media policies, and public appearance protocols. Because in one 7-second silence, Sanders didn't just win a battle, he rewrote the rules of engagement. What he deployed wasn't just confidence, it was weaponized preparation. He turned routine Q&A into a career-altering mic drop. No shouting, no disrespect, just cold-blooded execution via televised truth. And now the Browns are trapped. Start Gabriel, and they look tone deaf and as if they're ignoring what the world just watched. Start Sanders, and they validate this assertive approach, potentially inspiring other players to follow suit. The drama-free, process-driven, team-first culture Stefanski tried to build, obliterated in 7 seconds of national airtime. Behind the scenes, sources say veteran players are secretly impressed by Sanders' boldness, though publicly they remain diplomatic. Younger players, they're celebrating. To them, it wasn't just a mic drop. It was a generational torch grab, and the ripple effects don't end here. Every future quarterback battle will be compared to this one. Draft prospects will study Sanders' blueprint. recognizing that in this new era, media manipulation can be as potent as arm strength. TV producers are already salivating, planning joint segments, chasing lightning in a bottle, hoping to replicate the drama because one quarterback, unwilling to play by the old rules, evolved the entire sports media ecosystem. Now let's examine the tactical setup because Sanders' execution was meticulously designed. This wasn't a lucky swing. It wasn't emotional improvisation. It was a precisely engineered detonation. While Gabriel readied himself for a conventional media spot, Sanders was methodically preparing for a public reckoning. His delivery, disarmingly casual, his tone almost cordial, but the effect, nuclear. In the aftermath, Sanders didn't flinch. He remained composed while the studio and eventually the internet ignited. This wasn't a verbal scuffle. It was a surgical dismantling, meticulously choreographed and flawlessly executed. Multiple insiders confirmed ESPN's internal response ranged from sheer panic to euphoric disbelief. Initially, producers feared FCC blowback, advertiser fallout, or league intervention. But within hours, ratings told the real story. The highest rated first take segment in months. Social engagement surpassed Super Bowl week numbers. YouTube clips racked up millions of views before sundown. What was meant to be filler content had morphed into a full-blown cultural earthquake. Meanwhile, the Cleveland locker room dynamic ruptured. Position groups began quietly choosing sides, or defensive linemen whispered doubts. Should they still protect a quarterback who'd just been publicly dismantled? Receivers pondered whether running routes for a perceived backup could hurt their personal brand. Defensive players watched the drama unfold from the sideline, entertained but intentionally uninvolved. The coaching staff scrambled to put the genie back in the bottle, but the damage was irreversible. This wasn't normal quarterback tension. This was the early onset of organizational fracture threatening to unravel the season before it begins. Even the body language told a story. Gabriel's posture slumped, his shoulders sagged, confidence visibly drained from his face. In contrast, Sanders maintained locked eye contact, steady breath, perfect composure. These micro expressions, captured in high definition and replayed across social media, narrated a silent story. In one man disintegrating, another ascending, former Browns quarterbacks, men all too familiar with the franchise's dysfunction, offered sobering insight. The consensus was damning. Sanders hadn't disrupted the timeline. He had simply accelerated the inevitable. Instead of a slow crumble of speculation, he forced a moment of reckoning, brutal, effective, unmistakable. Even the segment's production revealed layers of tactical brilliance. Sources say Sanders personally requested his seat placement, ensuring cameras could frame both faces during the exchange. His attire was deliberate, effortlessly stylish, subtly luxurious, signaling success without desperation. Gabriel, clad in formal wear, suddenly looked stiff and overcompensating by comparison. These psychological details, invisible to the casual viewer, signaled Sanders' mastery of the medium. He wasn't just delivering a message, he was directing the moment. But what makes this transcendent isn't flash, it's authenticity. Sanders didn't manufacture false drama. He didn't twist facts. He simply deployed objective truth at the perfect moment. The 20-plus touchdowns, verified by beat reporters, the flawless practices, not backed by film, Gabriel's QB2 status, public record. Sanders didn't throw shade, he cast light, and that light scorched everything in its path. The impact went far beyond football. Business leaders dissected the moment for leadership lessons. Psychologists used it to teach competitive cognition. Content creators and brand strategists broke it down for viral playbook tactics. The moment achieved crossover relevance, sparking national conversation about confidence, competition, and generational disruption. Shedeur Sanders wasn't just a quarterback anymore. He was a symbol, the face of a changing professional culture. Don't overlook the technical brilliance behind it either. Sources say Sanders reviewed dozens of past first take segments, identifying the optimal moment to land his strike. He knew Stephen A. Smith's body language cues, Shannon Sharp's timing for tension, and how to manipulate social algorithms to ensure maximum viral spread. This wasn't just media savvy. This was multimedia warfare disguised as candor. Now the shockwaves continue. The Browns PR team has held emergency meetings. New restrictions are being placed on joint appearances. Internal media policy is being rewritten in real time. But every attempt at narrative control feels weak against the force of an authentic moment gone viral. The Browns lost control of their own storyline. Now they're passengers aboard a runaway narrative, one sparked by a single surgical statement, and the financial fallout is real. Gabriel's marketability has imploded, endorsements gone, branding damaged, future contract negotiations severely compromised, all because of a 7-second silence that redefined his public image. One moment, millions lost. On the flip side, Sanders' brand detonated upward. This wasn't just a sports moment, it was a generational reckoning. Millennial and Gen Z athletes are no longer content with waiting in line, bowing to outdated hierarchies, or playing the slow game of silent advancement. They are dismantling tradition, seizing control of their own stories, and leveraging every platform at their disposal. And Shedeur Sanders isn't just part of this evolution, he's its apex. Supremely skilled, media literate, fiercely unbothered by protocol. He represents the modern competitor. Dillon Gabriel, by contrast, stood as a relic of a fading era, blindsided by a battle he didn't see coming, unequipped for the psychological war unfolding live on national television. The contrast was striking. Sanders' quiet dominance reflected a lifetime of preparation, the influence of his iconic father, a deep understanding of the digital arena, and a calm comfort with confrontation. His destruction of Gabriel wasn't emotional. It was methodical, almost effortless, a reflection of someone who understands that modern athletics is as performative as it is physical. Gabriel's unraveling, on the other hand, was symbolic of the traditional athlete, trained to compete quietly, stay diplomatic, and let performance speak. But in this new world, silence looks like surrender and diplomacy, a disguise for disorientation. ESPN production staff described the aftermath like the aftermath of a championship knockout, stunned silence, buzzing tension, and a collective awareness that something unforgettable had just happened. Veteran employees, seasoned by decades of television, called it one of the most precise, calculated takedowns they'd ever witnessed. Not because of controversy or theatrics, but because one athlete dismantled another with nothing more than truth and timing. The public response echoed this sentiment. What began as shock quickly morphed into awe. Comment sections lit up with praise, deep analysis, and memes immortalizing the moment. Even Gabriel's supporters, though reluctant, acknowledged the obvious: their quarterback had been dismantled. No lies, no trash talk, just facts, composure, and brutal honesty. The ultimate irony: Gabriel's professionalism became his downfall, his reluctance to engage, his attempts at deflection, his commitment to formality, all read as weakness when juxtaposed with Sanders' raw, aggressive clarity. And the rules changed mid-play. Gabriel came expecting chess. Sanders brought MMA. Now the path forward is murky. Can Gabriel mentally recover from a national unraveling? Can the Browns' locker room survive the fractures? Will Sanders' boldness inspire copycats across the league? These questions remain unanswered, and their weight guarantees this story's continued dominance across media cycles. Because this wasn't just a quarterback competition, this was a watershed moment, a collision between old world tradition and new age audacity. For Browns fans, it's either the dawn of a franchise revival or the opening act of a catastrophic implosion. And the implications for professional sports are seismic. Did Sanders pioneer a bold new blueprint for competitive dominance, or did he shatter the sacred codes of locker room trust? Will NFL teams now tighten their media reins or lean into the chaos for the attention it brings? These aren't hypothetical debates. They are immediate strategic questions sparked by 7 seconds of unscripted truth. To fully understand Sanders' triumph, one must confront the totality of Gabriel's collapse. This wasn't simple embarrassment. This was career-altering exposure. From this point forward, every snap Gabriel takes will be viewed through the lens of inadequacy, every error magnified by the memory of that moment. The road back requires not just mental resilience, but psychological reinvention. And even that might not be enough, because Sanders didn't just win a debate, he may have ended the competition permanently. What we witnessed wasn't about stat lines or practice reports. It was a symbolic power shift, a generational realignment, a masterclass in multimedia warfare executed with chilling precision. And as the world watched in silence, a new paradigm was born. The traditional rules of professional athletic conduct, respect, patience, protocol, were obliterated by a 21-year-old who refused to play pretend. Whether it's viewed as revolution or heresy, one thing is certain: what Sanders did will live forever. The Cleveland Browns quarterback battle didn't conclude on the field with physical performance. It ended in a studio before millions with a verbal surgical strike that redefined what it means to compete in the modern age. Sanders proved that elite talent is no longer enough. You must master the moment, control the message, and weaponize your narrative. He didn't just win, he rewrote the battlefield. The crowd's stunned silence was more than awe. And this is just honest critique. Sometimes it feels like he's just slinging it out there. That said, I do want to highlight something encouraging as I nitpick. The whip effect we've talked about before is still showing up. If you've been following his progress, you'll remember I mentioned that one of his biggest improvements has come from generating torque through his upper body. His lower body has always been top tier, but now his upper half mechanics are catching up, creating that silky smooth, effortless flick we're starting to see. That's a serious step forward. Now, before we dive into broader Browns footage, including that Dillon Gabriel deep bomb, let's revisit what the head coach said about the QB competition. The priority for me is putting our guys in situations where we can fairly evaluate them. I thought all 4 performed well during the spring. We'll continue to give them reps. Ideally, we'd like to reach a decision sooner rather than later. Side note, now I was a little parched, had to grab a Sprite. Let's keep going. Let's get back into some tape, a few more reps here, some buttery smooth throws. Let him get set, but credit where it's due. He did his job. He properly motioned his guys across the formation, checked to make sure everyone was aligned. Then boom, a linebacker steps up into the box. You can literally see Shedeur stand tall, recognize the movement, and presumably adjust the protection accordingly. And then he hands it off with his own flair. You see that little stanky leg glide toward the mesh point. Everyone's got their own unique style with the handoff. Aaron Rodgers kind of skips into it. Shedeur, though, he's got this long, deliberate slide. It's got some style to it. That's just part of his growing identity as a quarterback, and it's genuinely fun to watch him develop those nuances. There he is again, working under center. That's a huge emphasis this camp. It's a big transition for him, no doubt. So now we're really watching how comfortable he's getting with it, how he handles footwork, timing, rhythm. These details matter. And listen, there's something to be said about Dillon Gabriel too, the so-called undersized quarterback. People love to point out what he can't do because of his height, but what nobody questions is his arm strength. He can rip it. Yeah, at first glance, his next play didn't look like much, but then you get a different angle. Play action boot, roll left, eyes downfield, and boom, he slings it. He got it off cleanly, even with pressure bearing down. I tried to downplay it, but credit where it's due. That was a strike. Now, was the receiver wide open? Yes. But still, a perfectly executed pass, you can't knock that. That's what Gabriel is known for, capitalizing on opportunity. He saw it, delivered it, and made it count. And here's the real conversation. When it comes to maximizing reps, Shedeur has to match that level of production. His throws are sharp, mechanically clean, and his presence is evolving, but Gabriel just dropped the best throw of the day, hands down. That deep bomb had coaches talking, had the media buzzing. So yes, Shedeur is stacking positive moments, but the standard is high. That's the competition. Now let's pivot to Tony Grossi reporting from Berea with the official breakdown of day one. Practice lasted just 45 minutes today. 2 fields were used, one for the vets, one for the rookies. Then they ran a modified 11 on 11 segment where each quarterback got 5 reps. Joe Flacco didn't participate in the final team session. Thank you guys. See you next video.